State cannot be an injured party. So, so the Supreme Court, or sorry, the state is made up of a body of men. That's all it is. It's a body of men, and that body of men is made up of a whole bunch of different parts. Well, when you have a state, that's a body, right? And when that state, government can take a side against you, but when it does, it's no different than any other body. So when the state of Washington takes a side against you, then everything that's a part of the state of Washington all works together to advance their interest, right? So the state of Washington is made up of prosecutors, it's made up of CPS, it's made up of judges, it's made up of law enforcement. They're all part of the body of men that make up the body of the state of Washington. But the state of Washington is one body. When it comes as a party and says state of Washington versus you, that party is made up of all these people. So the way that criminal conspiracy works, the whole theory behind it as an inchoate crime, it goes like this, that I'm made up of a whole bunch of different parts. I have hands, I have arms, I have legs, I have eyes, all these different parts that make up the body of Tamara, right? So if my hand goes out and it steals something, then my head can't say it was my hand that did it. You can't punish me for it. No. My head's part of the same body. If my hand steals something, my head has to pay for it, right? If my foot assaults someone, my hand can't say, oh, it wasn't me, I'm not responsible. No, you are responsible, right? So now this concept of conspiracy comes into play, because if any part of my body injures someone else, then by that injury, all parts of my body must pay for any one act of any one member or agent. And now take in the state of Washington, right? If one part of the body of men that make up the state injures someone, then that judge can't say, oh, it was the officer that did it. You can't punish me. Oh, no. That's not how an inchoate crime works, right? You are part of the body of men. So if you don't want to be responsible for the unlawful acts of that officer, then what you must do, judge, is you must step up and say, officer, I'm going to hold you accountable for your crimes. And if you don't, judge, then you have just established a part of the conspiracy. Because if you know about a crime that's being committed and you choose to do nothing about it, you may as well be the one pulling the trigger, judge, because you knew about it, you permitted it to continue. That's where criminal conspiracy comes from, and the theory behind it. So the body of men that makes up the state, it cannot become the accuser against you, because if it does, then all the men that's a part of it have to recuse themselves, because they all work together. So a judge cannot, a state can become a party in the cause. If it wants to, it can. But if it does, then no agent within the body of men that make up the state, none of those agents can act as the judge. None of them. Because no man can be both judge and party in the same cause. No man can judge his own case. So if the state does want to become a party, that's fine, become a party, state. But if you do, you lose your right to be able to judge that case, because the judge has a constitutional obligation to recuse himself, codified in Article 3, because he has a conflict of interest. He works for the plaintiff. That's why James Madison said in the Federalist Number 10, right? He said in the Federalist Number 10, and this is the earliest known reference to the modern day concept of conflict of interest. So today we call it a conflict of interest. The whole concept of conflict of interest derives from this particular statement from James Madison out of the Federalist Number 10, where he said, no man is allowed to be judged in his own cause, because his interest would no doubt bias his judgment and not improbably corrupt his integrity. With equal, nay, with greater reason, a body of men are unfit to be both judge and party at the same time. So no man can be judged because his interest would no doubt bias his judgment. Conflict of interest, because his interest would no doubt bias his judgment. That is the earliest known reference to the modern day concept of conflict of interest. That's where it came from, is James Madison pointed out the fact that, guess what? You cannot be judge in your own case, because the body of men that make up the state cannot be both accuser and judge. States were never, ever, ever meant to be both accuser and judge in the same cause, because of the bias, prejudice, and partiality that would ultimately transpire as a result of it. States cannot be both judge and party in the same cause, because if they do, innocents will suffer, such as they are today.